Before I reveal exactly what Ford's biggest mistake is, you must realize something crucial. This isn't just about cars anymore. It's about the survival of America's most iconic automaker. Ford recently made a decision that will haunt them for the next 10 years, and hardly anyone is talking about it. In fact, when I first learned what was going on behind the scenes of Ford, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A few years ago, you couldn't find a Ford F-150 anywhere. Dealerships were empty, prices were skyrocketing, and waiting lists were months long. Fast forward to the present, and Ford dealerships are overflowing with inventory, including their flagship. I've spent the last 10 years studying the auto industry, and I've never seen a pattern like this. The numbers don't lie, and what I'm about to show you reveals a massive shift that's already sending shock waves through the entire automotive market in the coming minutes. Mustang just had its worst sales year in history, worse than during the launch in the 1960s. Meanwhile, their CEO is telling everyone that everything is fine. I'll explain why Ford's most recent strategy is backfiring spectacularly, the numbers they're hiding, and most importantly, what this means for anyone considering purchasing a Ford in the coming years. However, first we must examine the events of the previous 24 months that led to Ford's disastrous decision. In 2020, when Ford and every other automaker were dealing with chip shortages, slow production lines, and empty dealerships, an intriguing development began. Every F-150 that came onto a dealership lot was marked up by $5,000, $10,000, and occasionally even $15,000 over MSRP, and customers were actually paying these prices. Here's where things get interesting, because Ford chose to watch from the sidelines as all of the extra profit went straight into the dealers' pockets rather than learning from this situation, even though the dealers were making a fortune. Ford made their first major error when they assumed that people would pay anything for their cars. Then, year after year, the prices of the F-150 increased until the new Mustang was introduced at the highest price in history. And even the reasonably priced Maverick began to push $33,000 for base trims. However, Ford completely misread the market, as evidenced by the empty lots I showed you earlier. Now, they're packed. I recently went to a Ford dealership, and what I saw was astounding. Row after row of F-150s covered in dust, Broncos that had been left undisturbed for months, and even their new Ranger, which should be flying off lots, was just sitting there. First, though, we must examine the events of the previous 24 months that led Ford to make this disastrous decision. The statistics paint a picture that is even more unsettling. In Q4, Mustang sales fell 43%. While all of this was going on, Ford CEO Jim Farley was telling investors that everything was fine. In fact, he recently made a statement that demonstrates just how disconnected leadership has become from reality. The Mach-E electric SUV is now outselling, and regular Mustang dealerships are offering discounts of up to $13,000 just to move inventory. Let that sink in for a moment. The Mustang is the worst-selling Mustang in history, and it's priced right. He responded that this discrepancy between Ford's leadership and market reality was only the beginning when asked about the record low sales and high prices of the vehicle. What followed would start a series of events that would result in their worst error ever. In order to fully comprehend the extent of Ford's current situation, we must examine three crucial warning indicators that were all ignored for decades, starting with the F-150 pricing catastrophe. The F-150 has been Ford's cash cow. It's more than just a truck. It's the foundation of their entire business. However, over the past 2 years, Ford has been raising prices steadily in the hopes that their customers will continue to pay, which has caused dealership lots to fill up with trucks that no one could afford. Last week, I went through a dealership and counted 4 full rows of F-150s. These weren't just display models. These were 2024 trucks gathering dust. The salesperson I spoke with acknowledged that they still had so many 2024 models that they weren't even sure when they would begin receiving 2025 inventory. However, the most telling thing is that the only time these trucks began to move was when Ford was compelled to offer steep discounts. We're talking about $12,000 to $13,000 off MSRP, and then the F-150 sales rose sharply in the final quarter of 2024. Who would have guessed that lower prices would result in more sales? The second warning sign is the Mustang disaster. Not only is the new Mustang having trouble, but it is also breaking records for all the wrong reasons. To put it in perspective, Ford sold 44,000 Mustangs in 2024, which is less than they sold when the vehicle was first introduced in the 1960s. What's even more embarrassing is that the Mustang Mach-E, the electric SUV that true Mustang fans despise, sold 7,000 more units than the Mustang itself. This is more than just a decline in sales. This represents a fundamental change in Ford's operations. But let's take a look at what the company did with the new Mustang. They raised the base price considerably, replaced the iconic double-hump dashboard with a huge screen that no one requested, and disregarded what their core customers really wanted. When sales fell, Ford responded by doubling down and insisting the car was priced appropriately. I can show you entire rows of Broncos sitting on lots covered in dust. The same thing happened with the Ranger. The new design is arguably the best-looking Ranger ever made. Warning sign number 3 is the silent inventory crisis. This is where things get really interesting. When the Bronco first came out, you couldn't find one anywhere. Dealers were marking them up by $20,000, and people were actually paying it. However, they're not moving. Ford is dealing with a much more fundamental issue that goes to the very core of their business model. And this is where we get to Ford's biggest mistake. Even the Maverick, which was supposed to be Ford's affordable truck option, is sitting on lots longer than ever before. But here's what makes this situation different from anything we've seen before. Ford is dealing with something much more fundamental. Before I tell you exactly what this mistake is, you must realize something important. This isn't just about Ford making a poor business decision. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of where the entire automotive market is headed, and the evidence is right in front of you. The decision was so misguided that it threatens to destroy everything they've built over the past century. Instead of getting better, their inventory issues are getting worse. Last week, Ford made an announcement that confirmed my worst fears. Their pricing strategy is totally backwards, and their product planning seems disconnected from reality. For more than a century, Ford built its empire on the simple tenet of making innovative vehicles affordable for the average American at prices they could afford. Henry Ford literally revolutionized manufacturing to make cars affordable for his own workers. This was a philosophy that transformed the automotive industry and made Ford one of the most successful companies in history. However, currently, Ford is systematically pricing their entire lineup out of reach for their traditional customer base, and they're doing it at the exact wrong time. This is Ford's catastrophic mistake. They're completely abandoning their core market in pursuit of a premium positioning they can't sustain. Examine their entire lineup. The F-150 Lightning electric truck starts at $50,000 and can easily reach $80,000, while the new Mustang GT costs $55,000 with the most basic options. Even their reasonably priced Maverick pickup is now selling for around $35,000 for mid-level models. The Bronco, I hope you can find one for less than $45,000. When it comes to the new Mustang's interior, Ford is not only raising prices, but actively decreasing value at the same time. Rather than enhancing what made Mustangs unique, they have removed iconic design elements in favor of generic screens and digital displays, charging premium prices while delivering less of what made their vehicles unique in the first place. On top of that, the timing couldn't be worse. Interest rates are at all-time highs. The typical monthly payment for a new car is more than $700. Although competition is more intense than ever and real wages aren't keeping up with inflation, Ford seems to believe they can suddenly become a premium brand. They're attempting to match Mercedes and BMW on price, but they lack the luxury experience and brand equity to support their claims. The numbers speak for themselves. Average Ford car transaction prices have gone up 38% since 2019. Customer satisfaction ratings are falling, brand loyalty rates are falling for the first time in decades, and market share is being lost in important areas. But here's what makes this error really disastrous. Ford is destroying relationships with their devoted clientele just when they need them most. Since the invention of assembly line electric vehicles, the auto industry has undergone its most significant change. Everything is changing due to autonomous driving and new mobility models, and rather than capitalizing on their strongest suit, their relationship with the middle-class America Ford is giving up on it, and the results already indicate that traditional Ford customers are moving to Hyundai and Kia. The average age of Ford buyers is rising, and first-time buyers aren't even thinking about buying a Ford. Their dealer network is having trouble selling inventory. And I recently spoke with a Ford dealer in the Midwest who told me something startling. For the first time in 30 years, he's having customers leave his showroom because they can't afford any new Ford. This isn't just a pricing issue, it's an identity crisis. Ford is attempting to change who they are and losing sight of what initially made them successful. They are sacrificing long-term sustainability for short-term profits, and the damage to their brand could take decades to repair. But the story gets worse. The consequences of Ford's error are set to reverberate throughout the automotive industry, So if you're considering purchasing any car in the coming years, not just a Ford, you should be aware of what's coming next. First, we'll see Ford struggle with an identity crisis. Unlike any other time in their history, they're stuck in the automotive industry, too costly to be a mainstream brand but not prestigious enough to be a luxury one. Examine their current electric vehicle strategy in action. Ford just slashed Lightning production by half, but they're still not addressing the price second. This error will force some significant changes in how Ford operates, so expect to see more desperate discounting. The F-150 Lightning was supposed to revolutionize the electric truck market, but instead it's sitting on lots with price tags that would make a Mercedes dealer blush. As inventory builds up, keep an eye out for factory shutdowns and hurried updates to important models. Get ready for the decline of dealer networks. But here's where things start to get interesting for people who are interested in purchasing automobiles. If you're intelligent about timing, Ford's mistake could actually work in your favor. We are already seeing massive discounts on 2024 models, and by the time tax season arrives in April, these discounts could get even bigger. I've been monitoring car prices and dealer incentives for more than a decade, and I'm seeing patterns that suggest we are heading into one of the best buyer's markets in recent history, but you need to know exactly when to buy and how to negotiate. That is why I'm telling my subscribers to wait for specific triggers before making a move. Speaking of subscribers, if you're finding this analysis helpful, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. I am constantly monitoring the market and updating my followers on the best deals and worst mistakes to avoid. If you don't miss out on important updates that could save you thousands of dollars on your next vehicle purchase, you will miss out on those opportunities. The third significant implication of Ford's error is that it will have an effect on the entire industry. Other manufacturers are observing Ford's experiment with premium pricing fail in real time, and they are adjusting their strategies accordingly. We are already seeing Hyundai and Kia capitalize on Ford's mistakes by offering vehicles that are better equipped at lower prices. But here's something that nobody else is talking about. This circumstance is creating an opportunity for buyers of intelligent automobiles that will only come around once in a lifetime. The market is about to experience a wave of price corrections, and if you're able to anticipate when and where to strike, you could save yourself thousands of dollars. Those who are in the market for a new vehicle will find that the next 6 months are going to be extremely important. The error made by Ford is merely the beginning of a more significant shift in the landscape of the automotive industry, and I will be here to see you through each and every development. Stay tuned for my next video, in which I will reveal the precise moment at which you should purchase particular Ford models in order to maximize your savings. I just finished analyzing the pricing data for every major Ford model over the past 5 years, and what I discovered about their pricing patterns is going to shock you. I'm going to reveal all of this information in my next video, including the exact best week to buy a Ford F-150, as well as certain Ford models that are about to see massive price drops. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one. However, before you leave, I have something special for you. There are 3 dealership tricks that you should be on the lookout for in the year 2025. You need to look at this information if you want to save thousands of dollars on your next vehicle purchase. And here's a quick preview of what you can expect to find. I have discovered a pattern in Ford's pricing strategy that indicates that certain models will experience price reductions of up to 20% in the coming months. However, timing is everything, and the next 6 months are going to be crucial for anyone who is in the market for a new vehicle. The mistake that Ford made is just the beginning of a larger shift in the landscape of the automotive industry, and I will be here to guide you through every development you encounter. Please leave a comment below letting me know which Ford model you're interested in, and I will make sure to include a specific pricing analysis for that vehicle in my next video. Keep in mind that the automotive market is constantly shifting, and staying informed is your best defense against overpaying. Subscribe now to receive the best insights on the car market and the deals that nobody else is talking about.